No.
All right.
All right, welcome to the Parks Advisory Committee meeting for March 19th. We're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll do roll call with Jonah.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. Jim Hill.
Here.
Tiffany Long.
Here.
Shelley Reynolds.
Here.
Victoria Rizzo.
Here.
Woodrow Terrell.
Here.
And Sherry Winters may be joining us in a little while. And myself, Jonah Jacobson, is here representing staff. Robbie Cantrell is on leave.
All right, the next order of business is to review and approve the February 19th, 2025 minutes. Open it up in here. Does anybody have any? Woodrow?
The only thing I would like to see is when we had our guest, Frank, what's his name? I think that he gave some specific dates and times of the meeting. I would like to see those bullet pointed out. I mean, it's one thing to say, you know, we had a member of the public came in and talked about upcoming events. I think our minute should say ABC event on this date at this time. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Woodrow.
Is there anybody else that in here that has anything to add to it, or you want to give us a minute to look through it, or?
I would just like to point out that Paul Wilcox dropped by my office and gave me a copy of the minutes with a bunch of spelling corrections and also name misspellings. So we will be going back through the minutes and making all those changes, including the correct spelling of Sharon Nesbitt's name, and Mary Tibbetts' name. So thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. I don't believe we'll be going through correction by correction in the meeting, but I will pass these over to the Public Works Administrator to make the changes.
And then we'll open it up to those online. Does anybody have anything to add to that online?
Jonah.
Oh. Welcome. Sherry is now here, marking that on the attendance sheet.
Sherry, we're going over the meeting minutes. Did you have any changes that you wanted to note?
No, I didn't see anything. Thank you.
I had one question for you, Jonah.
Yes.
I don't know if he said it, but the gentleman that was in here, Bruce, I don't know how to say his last name. He was talking about that he was a friend of Kiku Park and was wondering about the project. He never really said what the project was. Were you aware of what the project is, and like, what does that mean?
Yes, this is Superintendent Jacobson speaking. Yes, what Bryce Baumgardner, I believe is his name, was referring to was the project that was completed by Trail Keepers of Oregon last year, the trail rehab work and the construction of the stairs below Whedon Park. And at some point in the early stages of talking about or planning that project, there was discussion of the work taking place on the trails behind Kiku Park, which are very steep, and not only is it sort of a hazardous area for people to be in, but also erosion concerns would mean that trails are not really feasible back there. Real trails, anyway.
They were thinking your trails down to Beaver Creek or something.
To connect,
there's
yeah.
trails behind, but it's fenced off, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't go anywhere, it just stays behind the park.
It does go all the way down if you're brave. It's not a real trail. But,
Okay. I was just curious about that. All right, the next order of business. Oh, I would like a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Shelley. I move to approve the minutes for February 19th, 2025 with corrections as noted by Paul Wilcox and committee members.
A second.
And That was Woodrow that seconded that.
Correct.
All right,
All
we'll
right.
move on to number
All in
3.
favor?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to number 3, communication from staff.
All right, lovely to see you all again. As you saw, it's starting to look like spring out there in the last couple of weeks, and before this most recent bout of rainy weather, we had some nice sunny days, and parks workers definitely were taking advantage of those. We did actually semi-officially begin mowing season and get out and do some mowing at Columbia Park, but we've also been using our new tractor to do some field work there, running the aerator and cone spreader, and it's a nice piece of equipment and everybody likes it. Let's see, we are starting to see an uptick in parks usage and visitation, and also an uptick in reservations for sport fields and shelters in the Sam Cox building. So, yeah, spring is definitely coming at us more and more every day. The new parks rules signs that I talked about a couple of months ago have been getting installed. You'll start to see more and more of those in various parks around town, and yeah, Jonathan has been making excellent progress on those in the last couple of weeks. And most of you are probably already aware, but on Saturday, February 21st, Friends of Trees and City of Troutdale hosted a very successful planting event, and Frank was out there helping out with Friends of Trees. It was a blast. It was really great to see the excellent turnout from the community. All in all, there were 26 trees that were planted street side in the planting strips, and 2 trees that were planted in front yards adjacent to streets, and 12 trees planted in Troutdale Park. So a total of 40 trees planted on Saturday, the 21st. So it was a very successful project, and I look forward to collaborating with Friends of Trees again in the future. And at the end of my communication from staff, I'll share my screen if we want to just see a couple of pictures of that and one other tree-related event. And myself and Public Works Director Halton have been working on implementation of a pay-to-park system at Glen Auto Park. That was a topic of much discussion in this committee in the past. With the stipulations that this committee arrived at with no fees for Troutdale residents. And so we're getting closer to implementing a contract with that. It's going to be sort of a soft rollout of pay to park in the first year, and just sort of getting folks used to the new format of things down there. So let's see. So our goal for getting that set up is around Memorial Day. And let's see, just this week on Monday and Tuesday, Troutdale Parks had 2 high-risk trees removed from the Bellingham Greenway next to Southeast Stark, across from Mount Hood Community College near Corbeth. You all have probably seen these trees many times. They leaned pretty significantly over Southeast Stark and across some power lines there. I was watching those trees very nervously over the winter, and I'm very glad to see them gone now. They may have lasted for years more, but the consequences of them falling were too high to leave them where they were. So those were taken out on Monday and Tuesday this week. And looking ahead, there will be a wildfire safety fair at Llewellyn Park on Saturday, April 5th. This event is being hosted by City of Troutdale and the Oregon State Fire Marshal. And all Troutdale residents are welcome, but we especially encourage those who reside in the neighborhoods adjacent to parks, greenways, or privately owned wooded areas to attend. There's going to be a lot of good information about strategies for creating defensible space and hardening structures, and being more prepared for wildfire. And
is there a time for that?
I believe it's at noon.
It's from 1 p.m.
okay.
to 2:30 p.m.
1 to 2:30.
At Llewellyn Park on the tennis courts.
Got it.
There'll be a big event tent set up out there, so in case of rain. And yeah, and that's about all I have to report. I did want to, I'll go over to Zoom and share my screen really quick. I just wanted to share a few photos of of the Friends of Trees event. Yeah, it was really, really fun event. Oh, sorry. Yeah, really excellent turnout. It was, a lot of folks who were really happy to get out and, donate their time and energy to planting some trees in Troutdale. And as you can see, we had just really lovely weather that day. It was quite lucky. So yeah, it was really, really good time. And yeah, so my heartfelt gratitude goes out to Friends of Trees organization and to all the volunteers who helped out that day. We lose a lot of street trees, and inventory in our urban forest is lost much faster than it is replaced. So this was a really good event, and I'm really happy to see some street trees going back in the ground in Troutdale. And then let me see here. The other thing I wanted to share was sorry.
Oh,
This is just a quick video of the tree removal on Southeast Stark. These guys were doing some pretty gnarly work. So,
so do I'm supposed to open it to comments? Or
Sherry has her hand up,
up.
ask her to
So,
find out what she needs.
what's up, Sherry? Did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I just wanted to ask Jonah, I was trying to tell from those pictures there, um, were there trees planted very close to the actual imagination station?
yeah, they were fair. Thank you for the question, Sherry. They were fairly close, and with an appropriate buffer for them to grow and mature. And the trees that were planted around Imagination Station are kind of fun. I think they're alternating black tupelo and ginkgo biloba. So they like in the fall it'll be alternating like fiery orange and red with yellow in the ginkgo. The tupelos are like orange and red. So it'll be pretty fun, colorful fall leaf change. So.
Part of the comment or the question was because when we had talked before about the sails, and then we had to kind of put the sails on the back burner or what have you. And I just wondered, if we have some trees there that create some shade. I realize probably not for a few years would we have anything that we could really look at and say, whoa, good shade. But I just kind of wondered if close enough that they will create a difference within that area.
Hopefully so. Yes, that was part of the idea of planting those trees there as well. And you'll note, and they do kind of go in a semicircle around the west side of the play structure where the hot afternoon summer sun will be. So yeah, that hopefully someday they will provide some shade cover to the playground. Probably not the entire playground, maybe just the swing set right there next to them, but it's something, or will be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so do we open it to comments on that? Does anybody else have anything they wanted to ask Jonah? Open it to the room. No questions online? All right, we will move on to topic number 4, public to be heard. Comments are supposed to be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. We'll start online. Does anybody have public comment that's not already on our agenda online?
This is Paul Wilcox, Troutdale. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Okay. A quick question and comment, or maybe a couple questions. Is there anything happening with a new sign for Sunrise Park at the Hensley entrance? And my other question was, looked like there were some trees planted in the sidewalk strips in front of houses. And I was wondering if there was existing irrigation in there that you had to deal with. That's all I have. Thanks.
Sure thing. Thanks for the question, Paul, or questions. First of all, Regrettably, no, I haven't been able to find a sign maker who will create a sign similar to the one that was lost in the ice storm at Sunrise. That sign was made through a now defunct Department of Corrections sign making shop that does not exist anymore post-pandemic. And so it's kind of those hand routed wooden signs are kind of a thing that there's not as many sign makers doing that style anymore. And I would like to replace like for like. And so I know that is, you know, something that's long overdue. So that is definitely on my list of replacement signs. Now, I mean, I would ask, I mean, I would open that question up to this committee. Do folks really care if we, you know, should I be stuck on finding a similar style of sign, or should I move to a more modern printed style sign, which is, you know, much more easy to find?
I am curious if the high school wood shop has the ability to do anything like that or similar to it. Is that something we
It's a good
could
option.
look into? Like,
Potentially, yeah. I don't know what the high school's wood shop has made. I have brought them some like some cherry wood trunks from trees that have been removed in the past, so I do have a contact at the Reynolds wood shop.
This is Shelley. Otherwise, I guess my feeling is we need the sign, and the likelihood that it's going to be wrecked or ruined is high. So we should replace it with what we can get and what will last the longest.
this is Tiffany. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Sherry?
Okay, so hilariously enough, that was like a ditto on both ends. I was thinking, I believe when Carol was on the committee before, with her connection with Reynolds High School as well, we commented on the Reynolds wood shop possibly being able to do something. And then it might even been something Paul had said before, I can't remember. But then I would just go ahead and defer to exactly what Shelley said, that especially with the budget and Troutdale being as tight as it is, and it seeming to be hard to get some of the other stuff done that we'd like to, it might be good if we didn't invest too much in a sign, if it is possibly going to be destroyed pretty easily by kids again. So
Woodrow?
I
Yep.
wonder, so we've had a couple signs made for our rig that are hand routed. One mimics the old forest sign, you know, welcome to the Terrells instead of the park name. This is all people that we've interacted with years and years ago. So I've asked the smarter half of my marital relationship if she could remember, see if we could find out, you know, somebody who did that for us.
That'd be great. I would take recommendations,
'Cause
certainly.
It is totally the same style as the old National Forest, National Park, you know, the kind of unequal quadrilateral, two pieces and hand routed.
I did find one sign maker, sort of locally, you know, within 50 miles who makes them, but they are, I mean, they are, you know,
And
they are expensive. They, you know, it's a handmade item. It's like, you know, they can be 3 to 4 times the cost of a you know, a standard metal sign. So.
Sherry, did you still have your hand up? Did you want to say something else?
yeah, Woodrow, is there a possibility you could move that microphone that's sitting a little bit further away from you? Can you move it closer? You're hard to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Paul, I'm so sorry, remind me what your second question was? Oh, the irrigation with the trees, that's right.
Right.
So I don't believe that there's any irrigation running in any of the planting strips that I know of. Do you have it in front of your house?
I can answer the question as far as that.
Yeah, I will say that every single planting location did have a utility locate.
So prior to the planting, all designated utilities were highlighted, and that was by regulation, they have to actually place the trees accordingly. So you're not gonna end up with the tree over a water line. Does that make sense?
Did you hear that, Paul?
No, I couldn't hear.
Come up
Come
and,
on
come up
to
and,
the
Frank,
microphone,
Frank is in the, the room, and he has insight, because he works with the Friends of Trees people.
Hey, Paul, this is Frank Stevens, Troutdale. Hey, so I work with Friends of Trees. It takes about 2 weeks prior to the actual event, and they have contractors go out and actually highlight all the utilities at each location. And we have a definitive space that we have to provide and the number of trees, and they have to be the right tree for the right place. So that's something that's new to the street tree project. So we are really focused on getting the right tree in the right place, so we're not pushing up sidewalks, we're not running into any of the water lines, and we're not making a hazard for the road. Does that make sense? So as far as the irrigation goes, it all goes back to the homeowner as far as taking care of the tree. And then any side effect potentially of the tree, we try and limit that as much as possible with Friend of Trees by giving you the right tree for the right place. Does that help?
Yeah, that sounds good. The reason I was asking is, in our development anyway, all those planter strips between the street and the sidewalk are irrigated. Yeah,
Oh, good, okay.
irrigation pipe running the entire length of the strip.
Yeah, so that would be a place where you wouldn't, like swales would be a good example of that, where you wouldn't see a tree being put in. Does that make sense? Awesome, thank you.
Do you know what year Morgan Meadows was constructed, or over what years, Paul? Because I would assume that some more recent, developments would have some irrigation, but a lot of the city does not.
I think it was started in 2004. We were brand new in 2006.
All right, if there's nobody else that,
Just one thing.
oh, Jim wanted to say
So,
something?
I've noticed in terms of there may be a future need for similar street trees, which may or may not concern this group, but I noticed up in the Strawberry Meadows area, and I think that was the late 90s that it was developed. There, in the last week or so, a lot of the buckled sidewalks have been marked with white paint, which is either code compliance or a helpful neighbor, I'm not sure. But every one of those buckled sidewalks is next to a tree. And we found up in that area that the trees that were installed by the developer were all put in too shallow, and almost all of them have a buckled sidewalk. So it could be that in the next period, there will be some repaired sidewalks and trees removed because they'll need to be. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're paying the price for this.
Oh, absolutely.
Community development did secure grant funding this year to do an audit of our street tree code and as well as planting manual. So that's in the works, definitely.
But just saying, there's more to come, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Good.
This was Jim.
Good observation, Jim.
All right, we can move on to number 5, examples of extraordinary play park features going in at the Sandy River parklets.
I think before that, I think Frank had a public
Oh,
comment
yeah,
section.
I need to open public comment to the room. Come on
It's
up,
okay.
Frank.
I do have an update, or updates, just some thoughts on my travels around Troutdale, so. Hi, this is Frank Stevens, Troutdale resident, 34 years plus, going on 35. I have a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I think should be.
It's loading. So basically, if you don't know me, I think most of you guys do. I'm basically out and about. I retired last August, so I spend most of my time wandering around the city. And trees are like my thing, and parks are my thing, so. That plus roads and traffic and speeding and everything else that goes on in the city pretty much. And coffee, don't forget coffee.
Oh, hold on, let me add coffee, actually.
And coffee, and then cruising by your location a lot. That's like one of my go-tos. So I've started this kind of Troutdale Travels to keep track of stuff that I'm noticing throughout the city as I wander around. So next slide. So I noticed on our agenda, we're talking about the Sandy River Trail, soon to be Marion Tibbetts, I hope.
I don't believe tonight, do we have that on for tonight, or?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So either way, just some things to think about.
Oh, we are talking about the park, sorry.
Yeah, so some of the things to think about, I would highly recommend we or the city committee takes a look at how Oregon Parks and Recreation, I circled both highlighted areas. We have a lot of similarities between both sides of the bank, and they've been doing it for years. So if they could give us any advice on how they handle trails to the river, how they control the flow, how they control traffic, they've already done it. So we should be benchmarking some of their stuff and going, how did you guys control that? How do you deal with trash? How do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? Because we're at the beginning stage and they've been doing it for years. So it might be a good point to get a hold of Oregon Parks and Rec at Lewis and Clark and say, hey, could we benchmark some of your good practices and tell us what doesn't work, so we're not repeating the same mistakes. I spend a lot of time in this area, or I used to until I started construction, so now I'm basically just on 257th. At some point, we got to figure out how the parking's going to work, because 257th's been closed off. Are we going to leave it closed off? Are we going to open it? Where are people going to be parking when they go to this new park? Those are things we got to think about.
Where in this map are you talking about? Is that the circle on the left? Is that?
Yeah, so the circle on the left is 257th, right behind the mall. That's been cordoned off with. Oh, thank you. Oh, look at that. So this area right here is 257, Southwest 257. It goes almost all the way down to the end. That's the back of the mall. So that has been cordoned off with barricades for a number of years. So no one's been able to access that. The question is, are we going to remove those barricades, or are we going to keep them in place? Are we going to make that parking for people that want to go to the park or the trail? Those are all things we haven't, I don't think we've even explored that yet. So these are things we want to think about after the trail gets done, for sure. And then as you look at the list of things that we're proposing for designs, think ahead and go, I-84 is noisy, so think ahead about that. It's noisy, it's loud, it's kind of obnoxious, and the further you get away from the oak trees right here, these are all oaks that are still there. And they're taking out all the blackberries. So all those blackberry shrubs are going to be gone. So you have an opportunity for access to the river and how you control access to the river. And we can do that now. That's where Friends of Trees could come in with plantings and putting things where they need to be. So anyway, who's timing me? We got 5 minutes. Next slide.
You're the only one, so if you go over, I think it's okay.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. If you want to make that an agenda item, it might be a good topic for discussion some night. And then I would definitely bring in Clay Courtright if you need to get a hold of him, or any one of the rangers across the street on how to do business. Maybe even get our own ranger for this side. That would be great.
Clay Courtright is with Oregon State Parks?
Oregon Parks and Recreation, yeah. Next slide. So some of the stuff I've been noticing as the weather gets warmer. So we're seeing motorcycles utilizing the shared use paths. I had 2 last weekend. This guy I highlighted, he was a fisherman. God bless his heart. He didn't catch anything, but it's not a road. And I still have people utilizing it, not so much on the Troutdale side. The other side used to be an issue. And this section right here, this area underneath I-84, is going to continue to be an issue until we deal with that homeless situation across the river. I don't know, there's a lot of complicated issues that come together there that I'll convolute. It is going to affect parks, and we need to think of that as we deal with it. This is, what happened?
Oh,
It's been blinking like this all meeting.
I hit HDM1, right?
oh, is it the input button?
Uh-oh.
I'm not sure which input it is, but here, wait.
Yeah. So just make a long story short, it's the hub. So everything comes to the point at the shared use path. So Chalk Trail is going to come in one way. The Sandy River Trail, Meritibbit Trail is going to come in the other way. The park will be here. I-84 goes across. Truck stops behind me. I have the shared use path going over. And currently, it is basically the supply route for the homeless situation across the river. And I have that documented. So I've been working with Ray Young on that. So I can keep you guys updated on that.
And that's because the other entrance points to that footpath have been blocked off, right?
Correct. That was my goal last summer when I started again in June with my research on the bike and ped count.
Yeah.
I had 200 people and 6 cars using the other side of Sandy River. Too many cars going to and from at will. So they cordoned that whole thing off with
bollards and boulders.
Uh,
So unfortunately, that puts the pressure on Troutdale side to access this side to get across.
and is that a parks, so the Troutdale side, would that be a parks control function, or is it more of?
This is where it gets, we have 6 different jurisdictions all within a quarter-mile area.
Right.
So you have ODOT 2A, ODOT 2B, county, metro, Department of State Lands, Port of Portland, Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and City of Troutdale. Yeah, all of those pointing their finger at each other going, it's not my problem, it's your problem. So it takes a lot of coordination to get a simple thing done. Yeah. So for example, like underneath the bridge right there, I would get a hold of county Hope team, and they would usually come in and take care of it. I had that RV park parked there. I call the city because it's in the city area, and it's right on the line with ODOT, but the city took care of it. He actually ran a power line into the ODOT power receptacle. He had 6 different extension cords plugged in. But that's the rarity. So that's what's the great thing about Troutdale is I'm not seeing a lot of stuff on this side. It's all on the other side. So, but we are the conduit. So just be aware of that when you're thinking of your parks decisions. Sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your computer.
No, it's okay, I was just reading the manual, it says it should be HDMI 1. So I might just.
Did we lose everybody? Can anybody else hear us?
No, everybody I believe is still on Zoom, but we just
Yeah.
lost the projector, so,
That's okay. So next slide was gonna just cover basically the parks. And we've talked at length, I've heard you guys talk at length about community involvement. And I think you're at a breaking point where or not a breaking point, but a point where you're ready for the next step for action. So not just talking about what you're gonna do, but actually doing it. So you're getting out in the community, in the parks, and actually talking to people that are around parks and neighborhoods and trying to get a consensus on, can they help with the park? What type of neighborhood association is available? Sweetbriar is a great example of that. Sunrise would be a great example of that. It's like, can we talk to this group of people that surround this park and then spread the circle out, create a group like we did on Friends of Chalk Chalk? I have a group of 20 to 40 people that monitor the trail when I'm not there. And all of this is just a Facebook group. It's a small group of people that we see each other every day that are out there, so. It really does mitigate a lot of the public safety issues, and I haven't had to pick up trash on Chalk Chalk for 4 months, 5 months. Yeah, so that's all taken care of by the group that's out there every day. So that's the positive side of it, so. Well, thanks, Chandler.
yeah, no problem, sorry about, I don't, oh, we got it, oh, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Sorry, I was using the technology.
No worries. I don't know if you want me to run through any more of these slides.
Yeah,
but-
just go next slide. I only have 7 slides total.
Okay.
I wanted to bring up the Sandy River Shuttle feasibility because that hub is gonna be at the mall. That's where it's all gonna start and end, which puts more pressure on the decisions that Parks makes in that area. Because the ripple effect, obviously, it's gonna be a transit. Get it, ripple? So that's on, if you wanna take a look at the feasibility study, that came and I think it ended, but it's still available to look at, so that's great information. Next slide.
It's on Troutdale's webpage, or?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this is the community involvement I was talking about, and stewardship, outreach, and then some great brainstorming just from people I've talked to. I'd love to see an open house where the public actually has an opportunity to meet the staff, meet you guys, meet the parks group, and just everyone get together in one place, preferably up at Columbia Park, I think would be a good starting point. And then I can help you out with what do you want to do for connecting parks. Like I can set up dog walks, I can set up walks, I can set up bike rides, coffee events. Do you see where I'm going? It's all stuff I like, right? Yeah. And it's on your goals, so it kind of ties together. Next slide, that should be it. Friends of Chalk Chalk, we're gonna do a solve event down at I-84. That's the area that has the most work, so we'll be doing that end of the month.
What's solve? What does that mean?
Solve is a, Yeah, so they're usually known for trash pickup, but in reality, they actually do invasive species removal as well.
Oh, okay.
So I'll probably be doing some blackberry group get-togethers, work groups, and then trail maintenance as possible too. And that's a picture of the bald eagles critiquing my work down on the trail.
They're very judgy.
They are, incredibly,
Frank,
yes.
with the solve thing, that you're doing, are gloves and things provided, like what they do with Friends of Trees? So
Yeah.
that's, we just need to show up?
Yep.
Okay.
I may have to borrow a tent from the city if, in case it rains. But all the other equipment I pick up on the Friday before, and I have it for the whole weekend. So I ordered everything from picker-uppers to buckets to, yeah, all the equipment comes from Solve, and I just take it back after the event.
And what is the main goal for that event? To pick up garbage?
This time
or
is
to-
picking up trash, but for me, it's a chance for people to see the trail and what we're doing in that area. So if anyone has an interest, they can actually see what we're doing to connect the trails. Because a lot of people don't even know it exists yet, so.
And what does your RSVP look like on that?
Right now, I asked for 20 and I've got 10, so. I expect some day of event people, depends on the weather, honestly. If I get 10, I'm fine with that. It's all about spreading the word and people getting to know the area.
That's the 26th?
28th,
29th.
29th,
29th, yeah. Saturday,
yeah.
last Saturday of the month.
29, and it's 10 to 12.
Yeah, I tried to make it so it wasn't too early,
Awesome.
and that should be it.
And is there a place where that group is?
So if you go to.
Starting out, meeting?
Yeah, so right behind the mall on 250, Southwest 257th, where that circle was on the map.
Okay.
And I'll have signs put up as you turn at Starbucks, highlighting which way to go.
Okay.
Any questions online?
I just was curious how you advertised to get your help.
I just put it on the Solve site, and then we put it on the city page. Then I also kicked it out to the Gresham Outlook. And I gave it to Kevin Mooney with the media. And then I kicked it out to all my friends that I have, all 3 or 4 of them, counting Woodrow over here.
Maybe 5.
Maybe
And
5.
when did you start that process?
That would have been about a month and a half ago.
Okay, thank you.
Right,
Awesome.
if there's no more questions,
great.
should we move forward? We're gonna do examples of extraordinary park features going in at the Sandy River. Do we know, like, is it officially named yet, or have they not done that?
It's not officially named. There is a resolution going before council on April 8th, and I'm working on the staff report for right now. So if any of you want to attend the April 8th council meeting, it will be an agenda item that night. Actually, I believe it's on the consent agenda. Yeah. All right, so yeah, let's talk about soon-to-be Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Park. I'm just kind of gonna keep on sharing my screen over and over again tonight. Wait.
We're talking about the park, this is Tiffany, and what Frank said about them removing blackberries and access to the water. I feel like last time when we were talking about it, that the trail wouldn't have access to the water. Is there going to be access to the water that you know of?
I don't believe there is. No, I don't think there's a planned like beach area or boat launch or anything like that. But here, sorry, I was just trying to get into the plans here.
It looks like it's coming pretty darn close in some places.
All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of bouncing back and forth here. I mean, maybe perhaps the easiest way to do this is for me to show the sheet that I received from one of the architects with just a breakdown or a bunch of example photos of the play structures that are going into the park. And then once we look at these, perhaps it'll be easier to recognize them on the schematics. So, gotta gosh, this is really cluttered. Okay, so, Woodrow, when you proposed this agenda item, you had, I believe you were asking about, when you had mentioned extraordinary play park features, I think you were kind of talking about like, sort of, for lack of a better term that I know of, sort of like rough-hewn, natural landscape features. And actually, that is pretty much, the theme of all of these play parklets. All of the play equipment that is going in sort of meets that description. And so I think this bird's nest is a pretty cool one that is sort of, it's similar to, in some ways, the expression swing that you were talking about, I mean, it's a forward-facing parent and child, or child and child, and, child or however many can fit in there. Sort of exactly that, it's like a little nest. So it's a good sort of like story time, or like, little hangout area. So there's also this cool water pump feature, which I think is really neat, that has these two things sort of go together. So like this timber form water table thing, you can see that pump right there at the top of it is this handheld water pump. So, and then there's gonna be like, a sandbox under that with like shovels and stuff, so you can kind of like make piles of sand and then pump the water down, and, and you use the surfaces of the tables as like a play area. That I believe is the only water feature in the plan. Then there's this sort of this balance beam. Sorry. This one is called the Classic Timberform Play Stack. So yeah, it's sort of like a balance beam out of rough-hewn logs, pieces of telephone pole, probably not telephone pole because that is creosote, but. And then this Timberform sculptural climber is kind of a cool one, right? Like that's like, it's got little handholds carved into it, and yeah. And I don't know if it's like gonna be exactly like that, or if that, if each one is unique. It could be that ours will be a little bit different than that.
Are those solid, like pipes connecting them, or is that more like a cargo rope? I can't really tell what is connecting some of those.
Which, on the balance beam thing here?
The lower right.
On the lower right?
That one, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything connecting them. I think that they're set into the ground and there's spaces in between them.
I saw like the holes, and I saw what looked like straps. I didn't know if that was
Oh, here?
Yeah.
I think that those are carved out like handholds.
Oh, okay.
Like it's,
So you can hold on to it, okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Neat.
So, Jonah,
Yes, sir.
The bird's nest thing. Does it have like straw in it, or is that just?
We're gonna have to put straw in it, I think. Yeah, I think that's something that we're gonna have to replace, probably pretty frequently. So, yeah.
I wonder about the cleanliness of that. But,
Right.
With kids and
Little animals too. And
Yeah.
But it's a cool concept. I like that idea, but just a seating area, you're kind of isolated or confined with your kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I haven't seen that one before, but the architects say that this is a popular feature that people tend to like. So, so if we go back here, if I go back to,
Does it spin? It's Tiffany.
I don't believe the bird's nest spins. I believe it's affixed in one place.
that'd be a teacup ride.
Well, that's kind of what it looked like to me, was some sort of a.
Yeah, I that's a good question. I can certainly reach out to the architect and ask that question, but I don't believe that anything is like mobile or
Probably have hay
movable.
flying out of it if it's.
Yeah. I would worry, if it did, I would worry also about like pinch points with fingers and stuff. So anyway, if we look at the schematic for the play parks,
Can we zoom out a little bit, because I don't see the whole.
Yeah, so these are kind of in this page, I can find like a complete page, but it would be even more zoomed out if we have the entire like linear park, So these are kind of chopped up. But you can see they're labeled North Pocket Park, Central Pocket Park, and South Pocket Park. So this North Pocket Park will be the one that's closest to the freeway, obviously. The South, Yeah, and the South Pocket Park will be the one that's closest to Depot Park. So yeah, if we look, like, if we start at the north, I believe that is the one that has those spire things that are set into the ground. I believe that that's what that image is right there.
I can't see the compass point in the lower right of the north plan. Mm-hmm. What direction is that highlighting?
On the lower right.
For the north plan.
Right there. That direction is north.
Hold it, where's your laser at?
Yeah, so that's right there.
No, the other one, I'm sorry, I guess I was looking at
They're all about the same.
so which way, is it pointing to north?
That is north, yeah.
So north is to the lower right.
Yep.
So orienting this correctly.
Yeah, spin it like that if you've got a map that's looking north,
All right,
right? If
so
you're
the
looking at
play
that map on the
area,
wall.
it goes play area, a path, and then the river.
The
Exactly.
river's
Got
at the
it.
bottom of these.
Got it, okay, good.
Yeah, I believe so.
River's on the bottom. Okay.
And we can, I mean, it might make sense after we kind of like look at each individual one if I do the entire image, you know.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and then so this in the central play park, that looks like that sort of balance beam stack. And the South Pocket Park near Depot Park, I think, has kind of the most going on. This right here is, there was one thing on the images I'll go back to that I didn't cover, the images of the features. But you can see here on the northernmost end of the South Pocket Park, there is that water table feature with the pump right there. Kind of in the center of it with this path around is that nest. And then over here is this wide slide that is kind of set into like a bunch of boulders. So, and I can go back here and we can look at that.
Gentlemen, could you describe the ground cover in these various areas?
You know, I don't, the ground, like the landscape plants.
How much mowing has to be done, or is it?
I don't, I mean, within the parks, I don't, like within the play parks, I don't believe there's gonna be a ton of mowing
good.
required.
Low maintenance,
Yeah. Outside, there are some meadows along the linear park that will need to be mowed, depending on the landscape. I don't have all of the plant selection, you know, off the top of my head, but, there is a lot of that in this complete set of plans, though.
Nice.
And yeah, so over here is that wide slide feature thing. And so ours is gonna have like, kind of like a bunch of boulders, you know, set into the ground around it, you know, so back to the schematic here. Yeah, so there's that slide. And so if I go back to, this is gonna get kind of crazy here. I'm gonna go back to the very beginning of this set of plans and try to find one, here's the entire park, it looks like. And so, yeah, there's north, here's the freeway.
Okay.
Looks like there's the water tower on the URA property right there. And so, yeah, here's the North Pocket Park. Central Pocket Park, I believe, is this one right here, and here's the south one. And one thing that I didn't cover that's, I mean, this isn't an extraordinary play feature, but it is a cool feature of the parks. There is this sort of amphitheater little thing that's I believe gonna have like some, you know, some terraced stairs around it, you know, wide terraced stairs. So that's also a cool feature of the
So it goes
plan.
down towards the river?
I believe so. It looks to me from the shape of this that the audience would be seated on, like, you know, if this is an amphitheater, the audience would be seated here, facing back towards Troutdale, and the you know, if there was a performer in the amphitheater, they would be facing the river, right there.
Actually, the acoustics and that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Very neat. Lighting.
We were talking about lighting, there are pages covering all of that in this complete set of plans that is 65 pages long. But there are going to be, I don't know if there's gonna be lighting, like on the features in the play parks, like, you know, can lighting in the ground or anything like that, but there are gonna be light poles throughout the park.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that Marley's involved and it's gonna, the light poles will match the look and feel of downtown. and
Yes,
tie
yeah,
in
we
there.
did, we did pick paint for some light poles that, matches the ones, downtown, close.
What's this round feature above the southern mini park? Like underneath the A, what is that?
Oh, like, this right
A
here?
little, right above it.
The
Keep
circle,
going.
That
even
circle?
further,
Going up.
the big circle under the
It's right
the
under the
toolbar.
A.
I can zoom in here too, sorry.
At the end of a road, it's a turnabout.
Is that gonna be paved or? what is
This
it?
right here, I actually don't know what that is, let me see.
It looks like a turnaround.
It does.
It does, but I don't believe there's any roads planned in there, I mean, that might be like,
Emergency access or?
the access is just walking access.
What is that?
Emergency vehicles?
Sorry, I got zoomed in, I think yeah, emergency vehicles, there'll be bollards, you know, similar to what we have on the Cha-Cha Trail. I think I lost that page, sorry,
You're right.
shoot. It's a lot, sorry, everyone. But this is.
Is this the railroad tracks right here?
That is the railroad bridge right there, yeah. That's the railroad bridge.
Yeah, that's really close to water,
Yep.
surprisingly.
Yeah, I believe this is gonna be a big grassy meadow right there, so.
Neat.
Sherry, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, a couple of things. It's harder for me to tell on this one, but Jonah, on the first plans, you were showing us the three sections of the park. There were sort of like these round circle-ish things that were forming, or flowerish looking things or whatever. Is that something that highlights where a tree would go and its canopy would form, or?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah, so that's, I mean, I can zoom in on one of those in this sheet right here, but I believe you're talking about like these, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, in the one that was closer up before, it was showing kind of large thing areas, and I just didn't know what they are.
Yeah, those are trees and shrubs.
Okay. And then the other thing I wondered about that water feature, is that water that's drinking water, or is that just water that's just going to be pumping through and recycled water? Or how's that working?
Oh, no, it'll be city drinking water. It won't be, yeah, the recycled water would also, I think, be kind of a health hazard, right? Yeah, so no, it'll be city drinking water, the same water that's coming out of the drinking fountains in the park.
Oh, okay. So there's drinking fountains as well. Okay. Just wondering. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Woodruff.
Do we have any pet-friendly features in any of the mini parks?
In any of the play parks? I mean, I don't believe so. I think that the play parks are mostly designed around, I mean, I think that the pet-friendly feature of the park is really the walking path, right? So if folks are gonna be walking their dog on a leash, they'll be utilizing the path more than the individual play parks. I imagine, you know, that is an interesting question though, and one that I would like to pass on to the contractors is, are the water fountains that we're gonna be purchasing, do they have a dog bowl at the bottom of them? Because that's something that I would like included.
And because we are close proximity to the river, I mean, yeah, some owners are gonna let their animals run through the river. And if we even were just to set up a spray nozzle and a little drain area, again, just something to hose their pets off with, so when they decide to go spend their other disposable income up in the main street, their dogs aren't stinky smelly.
Well, hopefully they're not letting their dog run down to the river in this park if there's not beach access, because that would mean their dog is most likely running off leash. And hopefully people aren't doing that there. And if they are, I would recommend heading over to 1,000 Acres. But yeah, I mean, I certainly like the idea of like a dog station. I don't know if there's anything in the plan specific for that in what we have here. But I can certainly, inquire with the contractors and designers. So.
there any more questions online about this topic, or? I don't see anybody else raising their hand. Anybody in the room want to ask any questions on this topic?
No, Frank Stevens, right?
Yeah, because they
Yeah,
can't hear
yeah,
you unless
please
you
do.
come up.
Frank Stevens, Troutdale, was just taking some notes. Good points on the pets. They should be on leash, like you said, going over to 1,000 acre. That meadow will probably be done with the trail first, and then we'll be dealing with the big open field behind. So the potential for going off leash is there, but I think we can mitigate that. The biggest question is watching how things are done at Oregon Park and Rec. Most of the dogs that are playing in the water are off leash, obviously. So that transition period, I think you're onto something with, we need to figure that out. Yeah, that's a good note. The other one was looking at the rail trail. I was up at Bainbridge Island a couple of weeks ago. They put a troll underneath their bridge made out of wood.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It's a destination. So, yeah, it was huge. I mean, it's like 20 feet high and sits underneath. Anyway, something to think about.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely unique to Troutdale if we decide to go that route. And then you mentioned the water in the amphitheater. And then that amphitheater, I think if we could control utilizing plants specifically, you could control how people access the river just by use of what we're using for plants. Some of them will be prickly, obviously, some not so much. And that'll control the flow. And I've seen that on the other side of the river as well, to great effect, where the trails are pretty much consistent where people migrate. And you'll find a flow of people going to the water and the rocks. And then remember that we flood every year. So that water is going to come up almost to the, underneath the railroad right there. So you know that.
Oh, I do. From looking at, standing on Jordan Road and looking across, we're gonna, yeah, we get a couple warm rains to melt some of that snow off a hood. It's easily gonna get lapping right up on there. Now granted, it gets really broad in there too. So that mitigates, it gets higher than that choke point by the bridge. But then when it gets to the railroad bridge, it doesn't get as high, but yeah. And then Beaver Creek, when the sandy get high, Beaver Creek gets pretty high too.
Another note I made was we have that blank concrete wall where the trellis is going to be going underneath the highway. I'd recommend Merle, maybe by the high school students. Fill the space before someone else does. Yeah, it's a great plan. I think the amphitheater is a huge asset for summer concerts, potentially. Maybe
Part of the jazz thing that they got going on.
do an
That is
outreach
so
to
cool.
jazz, potentially, for summer concerts for upcoming musicians, definitely. I'm assuming no alcohol on the beach.
Well, as far as I know, there is no beach, but yeah, I mean, as with all parks, there'll be no alcohol.
Yeah, so you're gonna end up with, just follow the flow, and people will create their own paths.
Sure.
They're gonna access the water, and the trend that I see is typically closest to the railroad track.
Yeah.
Where those rocks are, and then as it comes to a narrow point and the face heading north towards the oak trees.
No, is that, I mean, that path, though, that concrete path there under the railroad tracks is gonna be up, like raised up on pilings, sort of, especially on the Depot Park side. But I believe that there's gonna be a railing installed on the edge of it right there as well.
But you're gonna see people behind that.
Sure,
for
sure.
So you'll be, especially fishermen and recreational enthusiasts. It's mostly rocky, it's not a sandy beach.
Right.
But you will see people down there, so for sure. It's just how do we control that and keep,
The other thing too is that little island
yeah.
is,
And Beaver Creek, you mean, on the other side by Depot Park?
it's the little island that I think one of the parts of the highway bridge is over.
Oh, okay.
And again, when the sandy's running at its normal height, it's a significantly wide island, and that it's a smaller channel on our side, from the park to the island.
Yeah.
I don't know how deep it is.
It's deeper.
Is it deeper over there? Okay. Because I could see people trying to get to that island. It's like, hey, let's go check that out.
If you follow the depth of the river, Troutdale has the deepest side.
It comes back
You
around,
can walk
that's it.
across from OPRD on the other side, but on the Troutdale side, that's too deep. You won't be able to do it. Even at the end of August, it's typically too deep to walk across. And I would be cautious of that turn because it becomes whitewater in the spring.
So from a safety perspective, somebody who's never been to this before and is trying to, stay away from the Glen Auto traffic, they come to this one, they're gonna see it and think, oh, we can just walk right across that little island. Yeah.
We're gonna have to post signs that say warning, deep water, swift current, cold temperature.
And I'm even thinking that once this thing gets up and running, we're gonna have to really coordinate a safety team perspective from Glen Auto and here. You're gonna wanna have.
Yeah, we'll have to involve, depending on how many people are down there in the summer, we may need AMR to post
All it takes
somebody.
is one.
Yeah.
One, I didn't read the sign, I didn't know what this is there, and it was a really short distance, I didn't think it was over my head, and then, yeah. So no, I think that err on the side of safety, and this is starting to, as we think about, the playlist, but also think of a location for AMR, for one of their guys to, do a rotation, you know what I mean? Just be constantly vigilant on our side and trying to figure out a way for them to control that, and again, a safety presence, so.
Yeah, and then finally, thanks for keeping the natural theme. I think we're tracking on the log concept. It just builds into the rest of the trails in the area, so that's perfect. Outstanding work. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had very little to do with the design or selection of any of this, so, but thank you, and likewise, Frank. Is there any other questions on this agenda item?
When is the time, I'm sure we've talked about the timeline before, but when is this park supposed to be done?
I believe the target is like September or October, which I think is
2025?
this year, yeah, which I think is ambitious. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes a little longer than that.
All right, well, if there's no more questions on this, we will move on to item number 6, which is a discussion of the structural issues with Reservoir 1 and the potential need to close the basketball court at Helen Althaus Park.
Yeah, so this agenda item is something that my coworkers in Public Works Water wanted me to bring to your attention. So a little background on is everybody familiar with where we're talking about?
No, we're here. Okay.
Yeah, so at the top, right there, if you're looking at Helen Althaus Park, forgive me, I don't know the name of the street that runs along the top of Helen Althaus.
I think it's 7.
Is it 7? Okay. So on 7th, at the top of Helen Althaus, there is what at first glance just looks like a basketball court in the center of the park. The basketball court is actually an afterthought. The structure is actually a reservoir. It's the oldest still functional and in-service reservoir in the city. It's called Reservoir 1, and it was constructed in 1981. It's 44 years old. And in 1981, it wasn't designed to have a basketball court on the top. A few years later, they were like, let's put a basketball court on the top, and they did. But in any case, it's a 1 million gallon below grade concrete reservoir. And while Reservoir 1 was incorporated into the park amenities many years ago by adding a basketball court on top, it is first and foremost a city drinking water reservoir. In 2024, Public Works commissioned a seismic resilience evaluation of its 4 water reservoirs, including Reservoir 1. This assessment was performed by Peterson Structural Engineers, PSE, a Portland area structural engineering firm, with additional support from Consor Engineers, another area firm. While that assessment was aimed at seismic resilience, The assessment revealed structural issues at Reservoir One, even under normal present conditions, i.e. without an earthquake. So like this was commissioned for seismic studies, but as they were looking at it, they're just like talking about, standard everyday static conditions, right? And so PSE found that Reservoir One is structurally deficient by modern standards. PSE found that the roof slab is overstressed even under dead load conditions. Dead load is just the weight of the structure itself, right? And so add on top of that a live load of people playing on top of it, or whatever other temporary conditions there might be, ice or snow, I suppose even wind or something like that. So essentially what they said is that it is overstressed under just dead load as it is. And so they found that the walls are overstressed against surrounding earth and hydrostatic, i.e. groundwater pressures, and they recommend that the reservoir be kept constantly as full as possible to provide counter force to the earth and hydrostatic pressure pressing inward on it. At some point in the future, as you can hear, City of Troutdale is going to be looking at either decommissioning Reservoir One or reconstructing it to the tune of many millions of dollars. That's going to be a very expensive project. But in the meantime, they noted that ponding on top of the reservoir is indicative of overstressed roof. If you've ever looked at it, you can see that there's water pools on top of it. So while PSE is not concerned of a sudden imminent collapse under dead loads and normal operating conditions, they do recommend for public safety and to minimize risks to the reservoir that public access to the top of the reservoir be restricted. And they found that the reservoir will need to be demolished and replaced eventually. While final decisions have not been made, at present Public Works expects that the reservoir will ultimately be demolished and that capacity replaced by enlarging the size of the planned reservoir number 5 currently in the CIP. On balance, Public Works staff believes that the potential risks to the public and the reservoir itself outweighs the public benefit of maintaining a basketball court on top of the reservoir. Public Works therefore proposes to remove the basketball hoops, fence off the top of the reservoir, and post no trespassing signs on it. But before doing that, of course, we wanted to bring this to the attention of this committee in the hopes that the Parks Advisory Committee will give us their blessing in closing this court for the time being. So.
Open to comment, and you guys, does anybody,
This is Shelley. I don't think we have any choice but to. I mean, the bottom line is it's not safe, it's not safe.
This is Jim, I agree, safety's paramount.
this is Tiffany, I think it's nice that it already has half a fence around it, so fence it off and let's keep the Troutdale community safe, that's most important.
Is there any place, Ms. Woodruff, that we can reuse the hoops? When we remove those, is there another flat spot somewhere we could put them in?
I don't know. I mean, we're not currently budgeted to construct a new basketball court anywhere, but I would hold on to them and keep them as spare parts and replacement if they're still good, if they're still serviceable. So.
This is Tiffany, do we know how, is it being used very often?
I have never seen anybody use it. That said, I think that likely there's some kids in the neighborhood who do use it, and it's a shame that Robbie isn't here tonight because I know that he is a fan of Troutdale Park's basketball courts. So,
this is Tiffany again. Are we going to be letting the people that live on 7th know that that's why that's happening? Are we sending a letter to just the people that really are around that park to let them know this is why we're doing it? It's for your safety. We're not doing it to make you mad and take away your fun.
I don't know if there is a plan for a targeted mailer, but that's not a bad idea, and I can certainly recommend that to Public Works.
This is Shelley. Even a temporary sign explaining the closure I think we may have like some underutilized parks. Do we have any kind of, or can we get, I'm assuming we can, the cost of laying a basketball court someplace?
Certainly, yeah, or a pickleball court? No, I'm just kidding, I'm just
No.
kidding.
Those are fighting words.
Are you not a pickler?
No.
Yeah, certainly I could get some quotes for that. I have no idea what that would cost today. For nice finished concrete work like that, you know, and obviously a fence.
And because it is noisy someplace where the neighbors aren't gonna care.
Right.
This is Tiffany. If we put up a sign letting people know why it's happening, could we also put on that sign, there are basketball courts here, 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 and here? So, because I mean, there's basketball courts at several of our parks. Maybe people just don't know because they don't travel down into that area.
Yeah, absolutely. We could include on signage there, you know, some proposed alternatives, so. I don't know if there is one directly, you know, in the vicinity of that neighborhood, you know, people may have to travel a
There's
little
basketball
bit.
hoops at the school. That's
It's-
pretty close.
Yeah, there is, you know, and everything is a short bike ride away, so. So, I mean, I suppose, if it's all right with you, Tiffany, we could, you know, we could have a motion, and a vote on closing, the court at Helen Althaus.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
This is Shelley. I move that we support the park's decision to close the basketball courts at Althaus Park for the purpose of safety.
That was Public Works that wants us to do that,
Public
right?
Works.
Public Works Water, yeah, it's the recommendation coming from
Thank you.
Public Works Water.
This is Jim, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you all.
Next up, committee concerns and initiatives, future agenda items, and closing comments. We'll just go ahead and start. We want to start online. Do you have anything you want to say, Sherry?
No, nothing except, thanks and sorry I was a little late. I was struggling with the connection to the Zoom meet, so.
It's okay, glad you could join us.
Victoria, did you want to say anything today?
No, thanks to everyone, and thank you, Frank and Paul, for your contributions.
Go ahead, Jim.
But nothing to add, thank you.
This is Shelley. Frank, for the March 29th Solve project, if I put that on my calendar, but it's depending on a couple of things. If people just show up, will you have enough supplies?
Yes.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's it.
Woodrow?
Nothing to add.
I kind of have a whole page.
All right.
First, I wanted to ask you about the tree in the Bellingham Greenway that fell right across the path. I sent you a picture of it.
I believe we've taken care of that one now, I think. Wait, there was another, wait, no, that was Strawberry Meadows. I'll have to go back to your email and make sure that we took care of that.
Okay.
I
Because
apologize.
I was in there last week and it was still down, and it is across one of the main paths. There's one broken right next to it that doesn't affect the path, but this one goes straight across the path. I watched the city council meeting on the 7th that was really long, and there was two really interesting topics. Jonah brought up the wildfire thing. If you get a chance, it was at the 17-minute mark. There's a resident that lives in the Sandy Palisades area, and she spoke about how high the fire danger is in that area, and it was just really interesting to hear from somebody in the community, and she's really passionate. And if you go on the website, there's like a checkoff list that the residents can print off and check off all these things. It's pretty cool.
The residents around the park, like Llewellyn, we all got that in the mail too.
It's awesome, and I'm excited to go and check that out. I hope that you guys will come to that. I just thought that was really interesting. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask about, in letting people in the community know things that are going on in the parks, things that are happening. I know that there's two I know for sure, but the bulletin boards that we have, they're kind of like a standing, it was the park map that was at Sunrise Park. And right now it's just stripped down to wood. So is there a plan to replace that bulletin, is that gonna go back up anytime soon?
Yes, Tiffany, and I apologize, there's kind of a long list of items at Sunrise Park that need more attention, and I won't go into specifics about staffing struggles that I'm having, but I would just mention that that is, you know, that has had some effect on things at Sunrise lately. So
It's on the plan to get it back up.
it is, yes.
Because when I went online looking up the wildfire thing, there's this really cool printout that was available. It was small, but things like that would be really cool to hang at our parks so people can see it. And I know there's one at SP4 that's really big. I'm curious if this is up in SP4 because it's like the backside of Beaver Creek. You know where I'm talking about? If you go down the Beaver Creek path on the backside, there's a big one. And I'm happy to hang flyers in these, go around. I don't know if there's a place to hang any information.
We can add more of those, or, you know, I think that, I really like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
go for it.
But yeah, I really like the one that we have at the SP4 trailhead, and I think that actually that should be something that we have in more parks.
The other thing that I wanted to mention about the city council meeting was that they approved dogs in Mayor Square and Depot Park, and in the future park on leash. And so they were concerned about, they talked about receptacles. So I don't know if is there a receptacle in Mayor Square?
There is now.
There's a waste receptacle there
We
now?
installed one last week.
Awesome. And with Mayor Square, when does the water come on? Because we walked by there and there was no water in the water fountain yet.
Soon, I mean, honestly, we could have done that this week. I mean, we drain it down, obviously, for freezing temperatures in the winter, but I think at this point, we've gotten outside the window of freezing nighttime temps, so I think it's probably safe to turn the fountain on. So yeah, we'll get that going.
I'm not talking
here
just
Thursday.
about the water feature, but just the water fountain. Would be nice to have the water fountain is off still. It's not on.
We probably turn that back on around the same time. It's just winterizing everything for, you know, freezing temps.
Okay. They were pretty concerned about dogs being in Columbia Park at that meeting too. There was a lot of dogs off leash, and I think that Ray mentioned that will be OPS. What does OPS stand for?
Oregon Patrol Service. They are the contract security that we got for Glen Otto Park. I will say that my proposed budget allocation to fund OPS was significantly reduced, so I'm not sure if they will be employed to be enforcing dogs at Columbia Park or not, depending on the amount of that budget allocation that is approved next month.
Are we with the signs that are going up, is any more signage like going up about dogs not being allowed on the playground or in the sports fields around there?
There is a brand, one of those new parks rule signs was installed at Columbia Park today, that has that all very, very well spelled out. It's a large format sign. Nobody can miss it.
Okay. And then I just want to share one of the things that has been driving me crazy about Sunrise Park is the community garden, and I've tasked myself with trying to work with Pepper Ann downtown, and she's the garden manager, created a Facebook group for just the park to try to get them to work with each other to like help with the weeding and the upkeep of it. So far, only 3 people have joined it. I don't know how many of the beds got snapped up. I don't think all of them did. Last time I talked to her, there's always been a line out the door, and there wasn't this year. And I just think that's because of the condition of the garden. Like, they're not working together, and it's really weedy in there. And I want the people that want to utilize it to do more of the work on the inside. That's that idea of it. So I'm trying to work with her and get that to happen. Them to communicate with each other and to let them know, hey, you guys agreed to this. This is what you agreed to, and send out reminders to them throughout the year that the beds are supposed to be emptied, and you're supposed to be growing things by this date, and they're supposed to be emptied out by that date. You know, everything's supposed to be cleaned out. So I'm trying to get them to work together on that.
Which park is that?
That's Sunrise. Sunrise Park has the community garden in it right at the front.
Is there a cost to this?
Yeah. The city, I think the city charges $25 for each garden bed.
And that's, for a season.
It's very affordable, yeah, 20, yeah.
The beds are pretty small, but if the gardeners work together, I think people get in there and they get overwhelmed. They might go on vacation, forget to water, and then they just give up. And if they talk to each other, they could help each other out and water each other's beds. And what are you growing? And what kind of weeds are you having problems with? You know,
Right.
stuff like that.
What is the size of the bed?
I want to say it's on the website, 6x9.
Six by 9 or 10, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, thank you, Tiffany, for you know, for sort of taking the reins on trying to organize that a little better. I mean, that, you know, that community garden project is intended to be a community-led, volunteer-driven project where Parks is providing the space.
And I know, I've mentioned, I would like to see it be bigger. The one in Gresham is huge. I actually know the lady that runs the one in Gresham, and she does such a good job. And they actually team up with a nonprofit that supplies food for, you know, homeless people or places. And they've got a bunch of stuff donated, and they have it really well at the Gresham one. It's a lot bigger, and I would like to see if more people get involved and we can get that one in good shape. Maybe we could move it to the other side of the park and make that more parking lot. That's way far in the future, but
Well, so would you like to, I mean, would you like to have a community garden review be an agenda item in the future? And perhaps if you want to extend an invitation to some of the garden plot holders or people who are
that would be a
involved in
great
it.
idea to get them talking to each other and what needs to change. And because
Maybe
there's
have
a
somebody
big-
volunteer to be like the, you know,
a manager of
leader
it.
or-
Somebody
yeah,
needs
exactly.
to manage it that knows about gardening, because it's not happening. I mean, that compost thing is a mess, and I don't think anybody wants to put that dirt in or use it. It's just a big. Sherry, what did you want to add to that?
It was your part on talking about the event on April the 5th in Llewellyn Park.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, since Shelley lives down in that neighborhood, she could probably speak to whether it would be effective. But when they do the big garage sale weekend, they used to put a sign just in the main entry down into the neighborhood. They'd post a sign about that upcoming event or whatever. And so I just didn't know if maybe a sign there would help let all the residents or most of the residents know as they enter in that, hey, this event is happening, and maybe gets more of them involved in it too.
I think the wildfire event happens before their big garage sale. Isn't the garage sale in July?
No, the garage sale is Father's Day weekend.
Oh, that's right, Father's Day.
What I meant by that was actually utilizing the same idea as posting a sign now about that event since it's so soon.
Yeah, just a sandwich board or something at the entry to the neighborhood.
About what would it be? For the wildfire event?
Yes.
I wonder if Marley's probably already on top of that, because I know she planned it with the community member. My guess is that they're gonna have signage out. But we
Okay.
can check.
I mean, my sister lives in the neighborhood. I guess I'll ask and see if she has heard of anything. So,
Yep, that's true. That's a good idea. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to say is there's really nobody here to encourage, but I saw in the paper that they opened for all the committees, and I'm gonna apply for another one of the committees I'm interested in being on, and I really want to encourage Frank to join us. He has so much insight to the parks and the trees and everything around, but I'm excited to hopefully get some new blood in our group here. And then I'm looking forward to participating in the Chalk Trail event. I had a lot of fun at the tree event. It was random. They put me in Frank's group, and my 10-year-old came with, and she got to learn a lot about planting trees. We had a good time. We went home, we picked up Bob, and we took Bob with us. So that was super fun. We had a good time doing that. And then also the Earth Day event in April. hopefully see some of you guys out there. That's on the 26th of April at Glen Otto.
Saturday, the 26th at Glen Otto this year, thank you, yeah.
On this same note of community membership, just remember that if you're up for renewal, to make sure you get that application in, because you're not automatically.
That's a good tip.
renewed. You absolutely have to get your application in, because it's not an automatic renewal.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about really quick was the GIS maps. When Zach left us and went to city council, he was sort of working with the GIS specialist or whatever, and he sent me and Robbie an email with his information. So I'm looking at it, and one thing I noticed was that the link on the parks page wasn't working. And so I realized that it did work if you went in through maps, and I've been playing around with that, and
When, I think that's been repaired, I was in there today, is it?
I haven't clicked on it yet, but Kevin said he was gonna fix it. So it would just go to a page and nothing would happen, but you could get into it. So the parks and trails, that one hasn't really changed, and I never messed around with the other ones, but I've discovered some interesting things about that. So I would love for that to be a future agenda item, to discuss that more, like what do we want to improve about that, or if we want to switch to a different one, because there is a different map on there, the city aerial map, with some features that are really cool that our parks and trails map doesn't have. So I would love for that to be a future agenda item.
Okay.
And I think that's all I had. Sorry, I was long-winded.
No problem. I mean, if you wouldn't mind just emailing me that, if you've got that typed up, that list that you just read, I would take that in an email. We can talk about all of this stuff getting on the agenda in the future.
Okay.
Thank you, Tiffany.
And so I guess we motion to,
If I may, I actually would like to propose one agenda item. And actually, just before we had to hold or cancel, I did want to just say, of course, it's entirely up to you all, but I do recommend skipping the April Parks Advisory Committee meeting, simply because the budget approval process is going to be taking precedent. We do have some crossover on the committee with the budget committee, and also that being said, I would like to propose an agenda item for May, either way, to just review the approved parks budget following the budget committee.
I think that'd be great. Does Tiffany?
Woodrow, question. So we're talking about April 16th?
Yes, I propose canceling that. And the other reason that I propose that, aside from budget committee, is that we, as you know, Tina Leahy is, the Public Works Administrator, is retiring. And she has just only a few days of time to train her replacement, whose name is Aaliyah. I apologize, I forget her last name. I just met her for the first time today. But in any case, I think it might be wise to give Aaliyah a month to get her bearings in her new position before producing a packet for us. So that's another reason why I think maybe we should hold off on the April meeting.
So, John,
Yes.
you never steer us wrong. But there's a lot of events coming up, right? And I think that this meeting is important for us to get updates on planning and how things are going. Maybe we have an abbreviated meeting, but I think it'd be helpful to have a quick one just to see where we're going and what we have planned, and making sure the bases are covered.
I think what he's saying is there's not gonna be anybody coming.
I know.
I would certainly be willing to send out a communication from staff update, if that's what you're talking about, Woodrow. Like I could email the committee, like, here's some updates on what we're doing. I mean, as far as major projects or things like that, we are continuing with stuff that is budgeted in this budget cycle.
Some of the events where we really need to get citizens involvement in, like the April 26th thing, right? So if we skip the 16th, then that's an opportunity we missed to, educate and drive more people to those events.
I do understand. I think that perhaps maybe more of the outreach is happening outside of this meeting, though.
I'm flexible, I'm just saying.
I wanna see you too.
Every
We can
chance
get
we
coffee,
get.
Woodrow. if you want.
I like coffee. Frank, you like coffee?
Paul Wilcox, did you have something you wanted to ask? Your hand was up?
Oh, Paul, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I have to push two buttons. Just wanted to mention the Budget Committee is meeting the 14th and the 16th at 6 o'clock. And any of you want to attend, you're certainly welcome to come and lobby for money for the parks.
All right, I can do that instead.
All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
So are we all agreeing to skip
We take a vote.
April?
This is Shelley. I move that we cancel the April 16th, 2025 Parks Advisory Committee meeting to resume meeting in May. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Victoria, Sherry?
Oh, sorry, I'm having such a hard time unmuting. Okay, I think what I heard Shelley say, that we are canceling the April 16th and then we'll hold one in May. Is that right?
That's the motion on the floor, yes.
Okay, yes, I'm in agreement.
Okay. Victoria, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I'm at the budget committee anyway, so. Yeah, I'm in agreement, yes.
All right, so we will hold, or we will cancel
Yes.
April.
Yes, exactly. The next Parks Advisory Committee meeting will be the third Wednesday of May.
And Paul, 6 PM on the 16th, is that correct for budget? 14th and 16th, right? At 6?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Right. So do you want a motion to adjourn?
I've done all the motions, come on, kids.
Motion adjourned. I second.
All right.
I'm Woodrow.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Tiffany.